I use the T every day to get to and from my job. I do occasionally take my children on the T to go downtown or to Prairie Park. Mainly it's for work, but depending on what kind of errands I need to run around town, I can use it. For me, it works quite well. It allows me the independence to travel to and from work that I would otherwise not have. I think we have a lot of people in Lawrence who are able to be independent because there is public transportation available. People that would otherwise not be able to keep their jobs or get to necessary medical appointments or to, say, get their children places they need to go, that without the T would not have that independence, and some of those people would not be able to contribute to our economy through their employment or through their shopping.
Lance Fay takes the bus to work every day. It takes him 30 minutes to get from his home near Lawrence Memorial Hospital to East Hills Business Park just off of K10 in East Lawrence. Fay is visually impaired and cannot drive himself. If it wasn't for public transportation, he says, he couldn't go about his daily life the way he does now, but would have to rethink every step he takes.
Well, I would have to work on carpooling with an employee, which can oftentimes be risky and unreliable, but that would really be my only option. Taxis are way too expensive for most people to use on a regular basis. So my only option is to find someone to carpool with or to get a different job closer to home, which would pay much less.
Fay is upset about the City Commission's recent move to cut funds for the T coming from property tax revenue. The Commission instead approved a budget for 2009 that provides for a sales tax increase to cover the rising costs of public transit. However, first Lawrence voters must approve the tax increase.
I feel like the City Commission has intentionally tried to destroy the public transportation system, our current commissioners. I really truly feel that we have some commissioners right now whose focus is on diverting our city funds for certain private projects, certain things that only benefit a few people in our community or a few developers in our community. And I've seen a sharp decrease in support for core city services that include but are not limited to public transportation.
Fay says the City Commission gambles with the future of the T, which is why he spoke in front of the City Commission on July 22nd. It was the day when commissioners debated and eventually approved the budget, including plans for a sales tax increase. The plan provides for an increase of 0.2%, which would cover expenses for regular operations of the T, and for another 1/20th% increase, which would allow for public transit to expand its fixed route system and to buy new buses. Practically, the increase means that with every $100 consumers spend, they will pay an additional 25 cents in sales tax. Now the fate of the T lies in the November 4 elections. On the ballot, questions number 2 and 3 cover the sales tax increase for public transit. If voters don't approve the measure, the city won't have any funds to operate the transit system in 2009. But why couldn't the City Commission just raise property taxes yet again to keep up with rising costs for public transit? Sue Heck was one of the commissioners who passed the budget back in July and knows the answer to this critical question.
I think the concern that I had was that our property taxes could not be raised anymore. And I don't think people who are not in elected office understand the pressure that is put on elected officials not to raise property tax. I cannot tell you how many emails that I get from people on fixed incomes. Please do not raise my property tax.
Heck says she considers public transportation a core community service. Once in a while, she uses the T herself, but isn't a choice rider. The sales tax increase, she says, might change that because it comes with some substantial benefits.
Putting the question on a ballot with an ordinance in place that when it passes, that money will be locked into transit for 10 years. When that money comes in, it will be a very well-funded system, and it will be able to be redesigned.
Buchheiberger was the only commissioner to vote against the budget. He says the City Commission must not risk the future of public transit in Lawrence, especially not in times of unstable gas prices and environmental concerns. Too many people, says Heiberger, depend on public transit, and without a system it will obviously be impossible to encourage people to use public transportation in the first place.
We're heading in the wrong direction. We're heading in the past rather than the future. So many smaller Kansas communities are putting together bus systems now. Hutchinson, Garden City, Salina, maybe Hayes. I mean, better and more public transportation is the way of the future.
In this day and age, is it the right idea to abandon public transit and to reinforce people's dependency on cars? And is the environmental and social idealism associated with public transit only a lip service to a cause we have yet to subscribe to? Either way, the debate has sparked a lot of controversy.
The odds that either candidate is going to be able to lower any taxes for you and I is pretty minimal.
KLWN radio talk show host Chris Merrill represents one side of the cultural spectrum. Merrill doesn't exactly reject the idea of public transit, he just doesn't like the way the current system is being run. That is why it has to go, and why he hopes that the proposed sales tax increase will fail.
It's just not necessary in Lawrence. Again, we take a look at 200 people with a demonstrated need for transportation, and you're talking well under 1/2%. I can't think of another service in the city of Lawrence, and certainly when you take a look at the numbers here, you're not going to see another service in the city of Lawrence that serves so few people at such a high cost.
The main criticism regarding the T concerns ridership. Opponents say at the end of the day, too few Lawrence residents use public transportation, and that the only bus you'll see in Lawrence is an empty bus.
It's a mission not ready. You know, if we see some more density and development downtown, we see parking become more difficult, and we see traffic become more congested with personal traffic, then yeah, then I think you're going to see public transportation make another comeback. But right now, it's just not a feasible expenditure.
As a matter of fact, ridership declined in 2007 for the first time since the T went into service, but has started to increase because KU students, faculty and staff can ride the T for free. The local decline in ridership comes at a time when more and more people across the country start using public transportation. According to the American Public Transportation Association, national ridership was up by almost 4% in the first half of 2008. As communities across the country see public transit ridership figures go up, the debate about public transit in Lawrence seems somewhat odd. Chapel Hill, a college town in North Carolina, for example, is a city of 55,000 people. Unlike Lawrence, the bus system in Chapel Hill is jointly operated by the town, the university, and the neighboring town of Carborough. The Transit Authority provides 6.6 million rides per year with its 99 buses. Lawrence, in comparison, provides roughly 400,000 rides per year with 12 buses.
We also have something that we didn't really talk about that might be kind of interesting.
Brian Litchfield, the Chapel Hill Assistant Transit Director, says that in his town, public transportation is not only free for everyone, but also very much part of its overall philosophy.
Chapel Hill has made the choice that, while we understand that we're not going to do away with personal automobiles and that is something that is necessary, what we want to do is we want to limit the impact of those automobiles on our community. And the town is committed to saying we will take every measure that we can within our ability to keep those roads the size that they are. So we're not impacting our community, so we're not losing trees, we're not losing houses, we're not taking land away from other uses to put cars on them.
Litchfield previously worked in Iowa and knows about the difficulties of setting up a public transit system in the spread-out areas of the Midwest. He is surprised, however, that a town like Lawrence seriously debates abandoning its current system.
That's an amazing, it's amazing to be faced with that sort of issue. The abolition completely of this system, especially at a time when fuel prices are skyrocketing, environmentally friendly ways of commuting and things like that are becoming more and more popular. It seems like the wrong time.
Back in Lawrence, the Campaign to Save the T is a group formed by supporters of public transit and is at the other end of the cultural spectrum. The campaign recently held a volunteer fair at the public library to bolster support for the sales tax vote. The campaign acknowledges that ridership numbers have dropped in the past, but says that this is not the right time to abandon public transit. One of the reasons is all the federal and state money that also goes into funding of the T.
The federal government has been investing nearly $2 million in matching fund every year since 2001. If the city of Lawrence decides to abandon what has been created in those 7 years, the reluctance of government to spend additional dollars in Lawrence, I think, would be something that people could feel.
What it all comes down to now is the vote on November 4th. And Lance Fay hopes that people will think twice before casting their ballots. Because once the T is gone, it might not easily be brought back.